In 2008, when the steel plant in Youngstown, Ohio shut its doors for good,
26-year-old welder Eli Vance walked away with a final paycheck of $1,200 and a 988 Ford F-150 with a failing transmission. Most of his co-workers took severance and applied for retraining programs. But Eli did something that made his family think he'd lost his mind.
he took $800 of his last $1,200, drove to a scrapyard, and bought a used industrial smoker, 3 sheet metal drums, and 50 pounds of raw flank steak.
At the time, the U.S. beef jerky market was dominated by a single titan, Jack Link's, a multi-billion-dollar empire that controlled
50% of gas station shelves nationwide. To everyone else, beef jerky was just a high-sodium impulse buy wrapped in plastic.
To Eli, it was a broken product. Corporate giants had spent 2 decades cutting costs,
Treating meat with liquid smoke, soaking it in high-fructose corn syrup, and filling bags with 40% silica gel and trapped air.
Nobody believed a laid-off steelworker with no business degree and a homemade smoker in his garage could challenge a billion-dollar empire. But 15 years later, Eli's company, Rustbelt Provisions, wasn't just surviving.
It was pulling in $120 million in annual revenue and stripping market share from the biggest food conglomerates in North America.
This is the story of how a welder used scrap metal, chemical intuition, and a brilliant marketing gamble to destroy Goliath at his own game. Eli's journey didn't start with a venture capital check. It started in his garage during a freezing Ohio winter. While working night shifts as a mechanic at a local diner, Eli noticed a pattern. Truck drivers and shift workers bought beef jerky every single day.
But they complained constantly. It was either tough as leather, sickeningly sweet, or half empty. Eli knew steel, heat, and airflow. Commercial jerky manufacturers used high-heat convection ovens to dry meat as fast as possible to maximize factory speed.
The downside? High heat turns muscle fiber into rubber. Eli spent 4 months modifying that scrapyard smoker.
He hand-welded a double-walled chamber with custom baffling that circulated low heat at precisely 155 degrees Fahrenheit, using real hickory wood instead of chemical liquid smoke. To cut costs, he recruited his younger brother and mother to trim meat by hand. He packed his first 100 bags into the back of his Ford F-150 and drove to local truck stops, hardware stores, and independent gas stations across eastern Ohio. The response was immediate. They totally bought in. The response was incredible.
His jerky had 30% more meat per ounce than the corporate brands, 0 artificial preservatives, and a texture that melted instead of tearing your teeth out. Within 6 months, Eli was selling out faster than his garage could produce.
By 2012, demand had completely outstripped Eli's garage setup. He needed to scale up or die out. Eli did what every small business owner fears, and he put his house on the line, scraped together his life savings, and took out a $400,000 small business loan to buy a custom, voiceover semi-automated dehydration line from an industrial food equipment supplier in Chicago. It was supposed to be a plug-and-play facility that could output 500 pounds of jerky a day. Then came the nightmare. 3 weeks into the installation, the equipment manufacturing company unexpectedly declared Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Their technicians walked off the job mid-assembly, leaving Eli with a half-built, non-functioning $400,000 pile of steel in a rented warehouse, a $4,500 monthly loan payment due in 30 days, and 0 production capacity. If Eli couldn't get the factory running within 4 weeks, he wouldn't just lose his business, he would lose his home. Instead of hiring expensive consultants he couldn't afford, Eli went back to what he knew best. He pulled out his welding torch, grabbed his socket set, and spent 20 hours a day inside the warehouse with his brother. They manually traced every wire, redesigned the flawed heat ducting, programmed the PLC controllers by watching tutorials, and rebuilt the entire airflow system from scratch. Not only did they get the plant running in 22 days, but Eli's custom modifications actually reduced energy consumption by 18% and improved moisture consistency beyond what the original manufacturer had designed.
Eli hadn't just survived a catastrophe. He had engineered an unfair operational advantage. With the plant humming, Rustbelt Provisions was ready for regional expansion. But getting onto the shelves of major Midwest supermarket chains like Meijer and Kroger meant going head-to-head with multi-billion-dollar giants who paid millions in slotting fees. Eli knew he couldn't outspend them on television ads or celebrity endorsements, so he exploited their biggest vulnerability: consumer trust. For years, consumers had joked online about opening a bag of commercial jerky or chips, only to find it half filled with air and silica packets. Eli turned that joke into a war cry. Rustbelt Provisions redesigned their packaging with a transparent window, spanning the entire front of the bag, and launched an aggressive, straight-talking campaign across the Midwest. Real meat, real smoke, no air.
By 2021, Rustbelt Provisions was generating over $100 million in revenue, operating out of a state-of-the-art 150,000 square foot facility in Akron, Ohio.
That's when the suits came calling. A major global food conglomerate presented Eli with a formal buyout offer, $200 million in cash. The deal would have made Eli absurdly wealthy overnight. The condition? The conglomerate wanted to move production to an automated plant in Texas, replace real hickory smoke with liquid flavorings, and drop the meat weight per bag to boost profit margins. Eli turned it down in less than 5 minutes. Today, Rustbelt Provisions remains 100% family-owned. Every employee at the Akron plant receives profit sharing, full health care, and direct access to Eli's desk. No corporate middle management. When giant corporations prioritize short-term profit margins over product quality, they create blind spots. And as Eli Vance proved, if you have the grit to build what others won't, a welder with a dream can transform a pile of scrap metal into an American empire. Making it all the way to the end proves you're part of the top 1% who truly value real, in-depth content. Hit that subscribe button so we can keep building this incredible community together.